Hey, so I want to welcome everybody to the weekly Creativity 202 check-in session for Tuesday nights. This is February 28th, 2023. This is the check-in session for lesson one. And, uh, you know, um, like Gandalf told Bilbo, I think, be careful once you start stepping on the road. No telling where that thing could go. So we'll keep that under advisement. So what I'm going to do real quick is just call on you in the order that I see you in, so you can just do a 15 or 30-second introduction, where you are, what's up, how you're feeling, and then once we do that, I'll hit the gongs and move us into the sacred space to start talking about our experiences with lesson number one. So, Luke Crawford, I see you first. What's going on, man?
Yeah, no, all good down here. Now, back in the full swing of trading now, doing about 10 trades a day and really looking forward to this intake of creativity. Learned a lot from last year, so really keen. I hope.
Yeah, it seemed like we hit our stride about 10 sessions in, and it just jumped off the charts with goodness at that time. We're doing good here in Kansas. Got a couple weeks till outdoor season starts. We had a good strategy meeting with the club board of directors last night. I walked them through a painful strategic planning process, but they did a great job, and we're all excited about that. So, looking forward to this session and really the whole cohort learning together. The guys on Sunday did real well, and I know you guys will too. Ed, how are you doing, sir?
Good evening, Sensei. How you doing? In New York, we got about 6 inches of snow on Long Island. So I had to fight with the snowblower, and I forgot to spray the silicone on it. So it was very heavy, very wet, and it's been a kind of a rough day. Not from the snow. I had to go into Manhattan, which is 80 miles from where I am, and I had to go talk to some doctors about returning to work, which is not looking good, which is, I guess, okay at my point, but it brought up a little memories, so I'm kind of a little wiped. Little rough day dealing with the PTSD. Is just one of those days. But I'm here. Aho.
It's good to see you, man. Pascal, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. I'm in Ottawa, Canada. I think we might have received a little bit more than 6 inches today. I think we're over 7 feet so far this year. Feeling a bit run down. It's been a tough few weeks, and today was no different. I'm not trading yet. But I'm hoping to that this will give me the push to get started. I'll
Yeah, I'll say be careful listening to the Sunday session, because Damon asked me how to get started, and you know, got a little vigorous on that one. So be careful about the motivation.
you know,
Uh, Dan, how are you doing today, sir?
Doing well. I'm in Silver Spring, Maryland, where we did not have any snow and have not had any this winter. Um, and it was a pretty good day. Didn't get any trades done, but I got a couple yesterday.
Awesome. Jeff
Uh-huh.
Southern, how are you, sir?
I'm great. It was 83 degrees here in north central Louisiana today. I hate to bring that up because not everybody's enjoying that. A friend of mine I just talked to in Southern California, they're suffering there too. He said they're probably going to declare a state of disaster because of the snow in California. But we're summer like right now. It probably won't last. Usually sometime in March we get hit with ice storms and really bad weather. But I live in Monroe, Louisiana. I was raised on a small ranch in Texas, right in the center of the state. The nearest town had about 400 people in it. And later on, right after high school, I became a pilot and traveled the world, all the major cities, the big cities. Spent enough time there to realize that I enjoyed the experience, but I didn't become a big city person. So I'm back in small town Louisiana for the most part. I've been flying airplanes and in the aviation business all my life. I've been doing that and trading for most of the last 30 years. And primarily what I do now is fly an air tanker for the Forest Service. So we support the brave firefighters that do wildland firefighting across the United States. And my goal is just to turn my trading hobby of 30 years into something that looks like a business.
Now, are you flying
I hope.
refuelers or are you flying the flame retardant?
No, actually, yeah. Yeah, we get mistaken over the comms by the air traffic controller sometimes as military refuelers, but they use the term air tanker. It's kind of colloquial because there's probably only about 100 of us in the whole United States, but we haul fire retardant and drop it to support the efforts of the ground firefighters on the ground
Okay.
to fight wildland fires.
What do you use for that? Is that a C-130? Is that a C-130 variant?
No, we do have some C-130s in the fleet. I fly what's called a single engine air tanker, which is a smaller single engine airplane. We're kind of like the fighter group of the whole task force. So we do the close air support missions and the close structure missions where precision is required. And we haul a lot less.
Did you say that was a single prop or a twin prop?
Single, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's built in Texas. It was purposely built for aerial firefighting.
Nice. Jesus, that close air support into a fire.
Right.
Yeah. Damien, how are you doing?
I'm doing fine. I'm for the people that don't know, I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I moved to the U.S. in 1983 to finish my education. I'm here to stay, not going back. I joined. Well, I should say this. I heard from Ken Law for Van Thorpe last year, and he had a good thing. So I decided to hook up with him to learn the right way about trading. So I have a lot of bad habits that I have to get out of the way. But one of the things that I can say is I followed the simple plan of Ken. I took over the last 2 days 6 trades. 5 of them were profitable. I have another 8 or 9. So I'm happy with the outcome.
Well, I guess our work here is done. Moving on.
No.
Tip
your wait staff on the way out, and we'll see you next week.
Tip your waitress. William Long, how are you doing, sir?
Quiet. I am rolling. No, not doing too bad. I apologize for my tardiness. I was out in the field. I started back to work part-time as a hospice nurse. It is also one of my passions besides trading. That, and I wanted to have somebody else pay for my insurance. So we're about to be looking at the weather report here in Detroit. It's rain, then wind, then ice, then snow, then ice, then rain. Then the next day, wash, rinse, and repeat. So weather challenges, but other than that, doing well. That's it. That's it.
All right.
From Lake Wobegon for now.
Let's saddle up and wagons ho. So this will move us into the sacred space. I'll offer the stick after that, and we will engage in deep listening with whoever is telling that true story. Our job is to empty your bowl and have that story in your head ready to tell, so that you create this vast emptiness inside that is just going to drink in all of these stories, and just let those words percolate and resonate. Don't try to judge, critique, advise, process, anticipate, whatever. Just experience listening to the truth and how it feels when there's no other motive. There's no other thing that is supposed to follow it. It's just the truth itself in the moment is sufficient, and just see what that feels like. And then when you're done with your story, we'll say aho, or you'll say aho, signifying from the Native American, as it should be, or so be it. And then I'll hit the tones to let the story breathe a little bit and to escape into the universe. And then the next person just grab the stick and off we go. So here we go into the sacred space. I thought I saw Luke or Dan wave your hand briefly. It was my screen was flickering, so one of you two grab it.
I'll go, Sean.
All right, Luke.
You're right if I share my screen? Can I share my screen?
Yeah, no problem. And for the other folks, that's not a requirement to do that. It's just he's showing off on day one, you know. Go ahead.
Can you see this reviewed lesson from last time? Yep. Okay, cool. So I went through the lesson 1 recording from last time to work out what I said and work out what the Euros guys said as well, to work out one of the main concepts that I found so useful doing the creativity course from last time. And I think being an accountant and being quite introverted and insular, I don't talk a lot out loud about what I'm actually doing. I keep a lot of my thoughts inside. And what I've found with the creativity course is sharing with you guys, but also talking to myself as I'm doing it. I learn a lot from the course by doing it that way. And through doing it in this fashion, I'm very much prepared to be wrong, because then I can learn quicker, fail fast, fail forward. I remember it must have been October 21, and I had a couple of days of bad trading, and I posted the chart in the chat room, and Ken was in one of his moods, and he said, let's go, let's just do it, just keep going. And he put me on to Jocko Willink, a YouTube clip, and I just thought, all right, let's just keep going. And then that really provided the incentive for me to just keep shooting, keep learning from that, and just focusing on the different phases of trading, plan, prepare, execute, assess. And I was just getting hung up on the trading that I was doing, and I just kept going, and I got through that hurdle and just kept going from there. One thing I focused on last time was focusing more on making money than trying to be right all the time. And I remember when Ed and Bill were in the session last time, we talked at length, and Dan was there too. I think we talked at length about Maverick and when that came out. And I thought it was good at the time. It was great. But we've actually watched that film even more than what I talked about last time. And that gets into my trading a lot more than I thought it would. It's the plane, not the pilot. That's all about psychology. And then at the end of the movie, when Rooster saves Maverick, sorry, spoiler alert, sorry, don't think, just do. And when he gets in trouble, Rooster says to Maverick, you told me not to think. So in terms of that, I find that really useful in the fact that you just execute and then you assess it later. Then you come back the next day and do it all again. I watched the Euro session last couple of days, and some people are doing the creativity course again. And I thought it was a good question. Why am I doing this again? There's just so much feedback. on the way that I'm trading, the systems that I'm trading, and instead of just keep going with my status quo of just doing it, I'm thinking from different angles. And a couple of the lessons when you take all the indicators off, that's a really good lesson. I found that was really useful. And I think, yeah, I do need to talk more, not less. And if you suffer through my Australian accent, then that'd be great. But also, I find it very useful in terms of having these meetings every week, talking to you guys and seeing what we can learn from each other. In terms of my systems design, I'm working on a different system in terms of RLCO and how that can apply for me on my the way I trade FOREX and some indices. And that's quite useful in terms of getting that really set from the beginning in terms of the creativity, what I need to focus on. Someone from the Euro session at the start of the course last time, one of their aims was to be authentic, to be truthful, transparent, to have integrity, to be diligent, have routine, to be consistent and self-worth. And I really want to reflect on that for myself when I go through these lessons. My plans for the next 2 to 3 months, hopefully not that long. I'm still doing all the work that I should have done for December last year before I got really sick. I should have got done before that, but I didn't get time to. Ken wants me to focus on what's the difference between trading a stock like Cliff and trading the Australian dollar, and my system parameters for trading the 5-minute Australian dollar, the lessons learned between switching from one to the other. And another plan of mine is to get this system running back test on TradingView and working out how I can do that during my day whilst also working. In terms of this lesson, the trader exercises, I have 2 accountability partners in Australia who've done the foundations course, and we talk regularly during the day. We don't trade the same thing all the time, but we find that we're trading very similar styles, which is quite useful. Fight or flight syndrome, I'll explain that in a second when I show you my chart from yesterday, and in terms of my urge to override some of my rules. And the Fletcher exercise, the bravery to do what your ancestors did. So when I think about that, when I think of my ancestors, we had a few of our ancestors who went to World War I and World War II, and some of them didn't make it back. And the ones who did, they still had to deal with the repercussions of being at war. And I can't sympathise with that because I have no background on that at all. But I can't imagine how hard it must be for them to have gone through that in their life. And that makes me quite understanding of where I am in the place in the world, and to be grateful, and to just have the opportunity to go to work, to be comfortable, earn some good money, provide for the family, and also be able to trade. So that is quite a grateful and humbling experience to go through. Now, in terms of the trader exercise, in terms of urges, I'm just waiting for the screen to catch up with you guys. So because my system, it sort of leaves a lot on the table. So I'm waiting for a PSAR flip, regression line crossing the dragon. I enter here, I see the price go all the way up here, which is nearly a 1R. That's my traditional exit, but I get out here. And then again, this one's okay. It just crosses the dragon, I get out. But I'm not putting second positions on yet at this stage. I'm trying to make sure I've got the system rules in place. So in terms of the urges, it's to sometimes get out early, but there is no get out early. You just get back in to re-enter. But as Ken would say, there is no get out early. But also the urge to go short at this level as the price crosses the PSAR and the Dragon. I'm still waiting for the PSAR to flip. So it's this opportunity cost of this loss. Could have been a scratch. I could have re-entered and I could have got back in. So I'm not trying to say that my system is not working. I'm trying to get the right results of about 100 trades to work out where I'm up to. So I think that's enough from me today. I hope.
Jeff.
I think
Hello,
your screen
everyone. I'm not as I don't have any slides prepared, but I did the first exercise about 3 different times, because the first time through I did it as from the viewpoint of doing some schoolwork and maybe making a report for you guys. And during that process, it kind of morphed into something different. And so I redid it. And then during the review of it this weekend, Saturday morning, actually, it turned into something completely different for me. So I'll just share what that was. I'm sure Ken knows. He'll probably laugh at us as we discover it, but whatever the science is behind this program, it's pretty remarkable. I know you guys, I don't have time to explain it all, but one of my biggest aha moments came during the review. I just wanted to make sure I was prepared to talk to you guys. So I was going to polish up my script and have everything perfect. And then I realized the truth is not about giving you guys a perfect book report on, my grandfather or whatever. So I discovered that I had a real fear of failing in public on a personal level. Professionally, I'm in public all the time. I'm training people, I'm receiving training, and during my job, the news cameras are there. I've got bosses everywhere. Our aircraft are wired up with sensors that send data back every second of every single thing I do. So in that regard, I live in public all the time, but on a personal level, it was different. And it goes all the way back to my grade school years. And it was a story I heard Bill tell on one of the recordings I watched, the same exact experience that I just didn't take a positive thing away from that. So that's been a huge breakthrough just in this first lesson for me. The first exercise was about family. The first time I thought about it, I thought, well, I'm not going to have anything impressive to tell those people because I'm just from a farming background, And then I started thinking, I had a grandmother who was an adventurer well into her 80s. She was doing things that all of her friends kind of, they were aghast, it was unacceptable, the things she was doing at 80 years old. That was pretty inspiring. And then I remembered my great grandmother who taught herself, she was born either in the late 1800s, 1890s, or around the turn of the century, but she taught herself to play the piano and to type after she was 65 years old. She loved music. That was her inspiration for the piano. And she had a desire to communicate with her grandchildren. So she actually taught herself to type. Tell you a little bit about my grandfather, because he was the one I realized that was probably the most creative and the most innovative and the most inventive. And it took me 3 iterations to realize all this. It was quite a revelation for me. But his name was John William Southern. I only ever knew him as Grandpa. And of course, everyone else called him JW his whole life. And he was the greatest influence on my life of anybody in my family, except maybe my mother. But he was also the greatest storyteller in my family. And I never thought about that in my whole life until I took this course and was trying to work through this process. But he believed he tried to teach us the things that he knew through his storytelling, but I just didn't connect the two. He was born in 1917 on a small farm in Oklahoma, the oldest of 5 children. His dad left it when he was 12 years old, so he was the oldest child. And with about a 5th grade education, he left school and never went back. So at 12 years old, he was doing a man's work. He had the responsibility for helping feed the family. And he helped his family and his neighbors survive the Dust Bowl of the 30s, when it was so bad in Oklahoma that a lot of the population migrated to California to try to find something better. In his lifetime, he mastered farming, ranching, bartering, truck driving. He was a craftsman. He could build anything from a house to from the workbench to the house itself. He was a mechanic. At one point, he was pretty highly sought after. He used to travel around the state of Texas installing marble countertops and fireplaces back in the late 70s. I think granite is the rage now, but he was very skilled in doing marble work. And because of the way he became the patriarch of a very large family early in life. And at one point, he was delivering some of their farm goods for sale in New Mexico, and he realized that there was a much better opportunity for his family in New Mexico. So not only did he move there, but he moved his extended family too. His brothers and sisters and all their families all moved with him out to New Mexico. That's where my dad was born. And they lived there for a long time, farming and ranching. And then my mother's family originated in Central Texas. So after my parents' marriage, my grandfather went down to visit my mother's family and to get to meet them. And he fell in love with the hill country of Texas, which is full of rolling hills and trees right in the center of the state. But it has lakes and rivers, and the farmland is really fertile, and it's got good grazing for cattle. So he moved, once again, his family there. His brothers and sisters were too established to make that move, so they stayed in New Mexico. The interesting thing is he had to be about 45 years old, maybe 50 when he moved there, but he considered himself a Texan until the day he died. And he was an Oklahoman who went to New Mexico, and then he went to Texas. But I guess that just shows you what impact at that point in his life that place had on him. He was super confident. He was a little small guy, about 5'8". I'm only 5'9", but he was smaller than me. He could do anything, but he was also very thoughtful and deliberate and very patient in everything that he did. The story's long, so I'm going to just kind of skip on a little bit. The thing I realized about storytelling is we had a tradition in our family on the ranch. In the evenings after the meal, the adults would go sit on the front porch in the dark usually, because if you turn the light on, all the bugs would come harass you. But they would sit out there and tell stories. So as a kid, I used to sneak out there and listen. And he knew I was there, but as long as I was quiet and didn't say anything, I was able to listen and hear what they were talking about. I know at the end of his life, he ended up with the 12th grade, with the 5th grade education. He ended up running multiple businesses. He had a trucking business, a custom harvesting business. He had a farm and a ranch, took care of his neighbors. And I know he was proud of his accomplishments, and he never let any of that hold him back. By the time I was 14 years old, I had a pretty good resume, because I didn't realize it, but I was enrolled in Southern University the day I was born, because that was his plan, right? I was his oldest grandson. So, it wasn't unusual. I became his chauffeur when I was about 10 years old. I was driving him down the highway in his truck. I had no driver's license. I was just a kid, but he thought it was important that I experience those things and learn all this stuff, because it had been important in his life. But by the time I was 14, I had a bank account. I was filling out his checks that he signed. Excuse me. And I got to listen when I drove him around everywhere. I got to listen to him barter for the goods that he needed and haggle for prices for his cattle. And, it was a great experience. And the thing is, I thought that every kid grew up just the way I did, because I only had one frame of reference. One of the things he used to do is correct me on my math all the time. He would ask me to figure something out for him, and I'd get out my paper and pen and work it out. And then he would just say, no, that's not right. Try it again. So he could do mental math so fast that I thought it was like a magic trick. And he taught me how to do that. And now the pilots that I fly with, I'm teaching them. I have a cowboy math course of just how to mentally calculate and approximate. You're not going to get the answer to the decimal point, but you'll know very quickly if you have enough fuel to make it to your destination after we get rerouted or something. So you guys can see that, you know, that was one of the things that I had a problem with. The first time I tried to tell his story, when I reread it, I realized I was telling my story, and I thought, no, that's not what the exercise said. It said to tell their story, you know. And then I realized that there's only one story. You can't separate them. That was something that I hadn't thought about before. He lived 79 years, and like I said, he was pretty proud of what he accomplished, and I never heard him complain about lack of education. He never complained about anything. If he didn't know it, he just learned it by doing, or he found someone that knew it and got him to teach him how to do it. The other part of the story was, you know, when have I been brave? Compared to my grandfather, I think the answer is never. You know, people think the job that I do, other than being a soldier, we have I fly a low level, high risk mission. I've been doing it for 23 years. I'm pretty used to it. But compared to what they went through in their lives, it seems inconsequential, you know. However, I started school in that small town of 400 people. So there were only 4 children in my entire grade. There was probably about 100 kids in the entire school. And I did that till 3rd grade, and then my parents got divorced, and I moved to a big town with a big school and learned what school problems were about. But I grew up kind of in a sacred circle in a small protected community where there was trust. Everybody trusted everybody. So once you've had that, you know, you definitely know when you miss it. But a guy that I started kindergarten with, a friend of mine, we decided, you know, when you're 6 or 7 years old, people ask you, what are you going to do? And for some reason, I just knew at that age that I wanted to be a pilot. And I remember my mom taking me to the movies. We had a 1 movie theater in town, right? So if you didn't like what was showing, you just didn't go, because it was only one, and it would show for a week or 2, and then they would change it. But I remember her and I going by ourselves, probably because none of the other kids wanted to watch an airplane show. But she took me to see The Great Waldo Pepper in 1976. So I had to be like 6 years old then. And I remember one of the neighboring ranchers landing his airplane. We were building fence, which is wonderful work. You dig a hole by hand and you stick a post in it, and then you fill it back up, and you do that about 9,000 more times. And I found out he was a pilot. Obviously, he flew in. He was a neighboring rancher, but I also found out he was an airline pilot. And I remember just having the thought, that's got to be better than digging fence post holes, right, all day long. So somewhere in there, I just decided that I was going to be a pilot. And my friend Clint, he decided early on that he was going to go to West Point. Not only was he going to go into the Army, he was going to go to West Point. And at first, we were kind of heroes, right? Our 6, 7, 8-year-old children, they were like, yeah, that's cool. We want to be a pilot too. But by the time we split up, but we remained friends. He stayed there and I moved away. But by the time we got to high school, you start getting ridiculed. You know, they say, you're never going to be a pilot. And, you know, I'm sure they told him, do you know how hard it is to get into West Point? You know, you're just a farm kid from a small town in Texas. But as it turned out, I've spent my whole life flying airplanes, and he went to West Point. So that was kind of an aha moment. I don't know where to go from there. Damien, I want to thank you for your question on Sunday, because I've been listening to Ken for 6 years, and I learned about trading from Ken. And then I had a realization that there's a difference between knowing about trading and knowing about what Ken does, and knowing trading and knowing how to trade. And the fact that that wall was there for this amount of time is just kind of embarrassing, because in aviation, I consider myself kind of an expert, and other people do too. I teach the stuff that I know, But in aviation, you can read all the books that have ever been written about airplanes, and you'll know more about them than I do. Even though I spent 30 years in the business, I don't know everything there is to know about airplanes. I have people all the time that come up and tell me things I don't know about different parts of aviation, and that's part of the great thing about it. But if you want to know airplanes, you've got to come with me and go fly. That's the only way you're going to know airplanes, but you can learn all about them in a book. So I know a lot about trading, and I think I was one of those 65% traders that it was good enough to keep going, but inside me, I knew that it didn't meet my standards. So I've made a commitment to my work in progress is to take at least 3 trades each day on a 3-minute chart, tortoise style, take the screenshot, journal the trades, log the trades, going to do it for 30 trades, look at the data, and then just keep on trading. And I'm about 15 trades in. It's going well. I've got a trading journal, a real trading journal for the first time in my life. And I kept putting all that off because I wanted to be able to do it perfectly before I even started doing it, which is another crazy thing, because if you've never done anything, you're not going to be good at it. You just have to know that you're going to be bad and just do it anyway. So I just opened up a blank page in Microsoft Word because that was the first thing that came to mind, and I just started typing my journal from scratch, and it's working perfectly fine right now. I'm sure I'll improve on that as I go. Same thing, I just have my own Excel spreadsheet. I started documenting my trades in detail with the idea of having a histogram at the end and some real data that someone could look at and that I can look at and see, measure everything I do objectively. And that's a first for me. I've been trading for 30 years and I make money trading. Some years I make a lot of money trading, but I don't have the skills on the short time frames, and I can't trade all markets. So I see that my performance is very market dependent, and I end up sitting out a lot of the time and looking back saying, wow, there's a lot of traders that made money during this time, but I wasn't one of them. So I'm working on those things I talked about. I'm looking for an accountability partner, which I've never had before. I've just traded in isolation. And one of the things that Damien's question was inspirational when Ken answered it the other night, Sunday, or the other morning. And then I read something that Ken's probably got all over the place, but it says, stop trying to be perfect and do something useful to others. You know, get over yourself. So this is me getting over myself, and I hope you guys hold me accountable. Aho.
I shudder to think of what you're going to sound like after 30 lessons. Holy mackerel. Nice.
Well, before we pass the torch, these guys need to know that I'm 6 years into this.
Yeah.
So they're at least 5 years ahead of me, actually. It was that I just didn't accept the offering the first time around.
Well, you know, the good thing is that the market has no memory. It doesn't remember the things that it offered we didn't take. It's just a merry-go-round of infinite opportunity. And, you know, there we are. Eddie.
Oh, good evening.
Go ahead.
Good evening. Good evening, everyone, again. The first time I took the course and I started the course, it was not only inspirational, it helped a lot. So one thing I noticed that when I was taking this course it was helping me on a personal level more than trading, because I have been diagnosed with PTSD from major traumas at my job as a railroad engineer. And that has helped me so much being part of this group. So I got more out of this creativity on the personal side. Now, I'm not putting the trading side away because I'm working on me. And this has helped so much where just having the accountability partner with Billy and Sensei and then Luke, it was just great. It really, really helped a lot. And it's still helping. So when all hell broke loose, life became life, and my significant other got sick in August, and then from there everything just went downhill. So I kind of lost. I lost touch. I just couldn't get back in it. Everything was happening so fast, and I honestly didn't know where to go sometimes. And my accountability partner, Bill, just called. There's days when I was going through, I don't know what he had. I think he had something somewhere where he goes, Ed, I just need to call Ed. And that helped me so many times. And I am so grateful for that. So as you go on this journey, or as I've gone on this journey, it's been so personal. Not just trading because I want to be a better trader, but this has helped me become a better person and realizing that life does happen. It's not just about making money. It's not just about it's finding good people that you can actually help with perfect strangers. Because I've been able to talk to the group more than I've talked to my own family, and that's a massive change for me. I have a big mouth, so I can talk. That's not the issue. It's just some things you just don't want to share with other people because family has a tendency to judge you. Close friends have a tendency to judge you because you're that person that's always either positive or you're always there. You're always helping them, and they don't understand where you are or have not even understood what you're going through. So, I'm more than grateful to restart the course again. Going through the beginning, I think for me is it's just starting over, not over, it's a new course for me because now I get to not only not compare, but examine the things that I've said before or things that I've done before, or things that everybody else has done before, and get more out of it this time because now not only is that I guess that fear of what the unknown is, it gets a little easier. It's like driving a car. The more you do it, the better you get at it, and it's just like going down the road. So I'm looking forward to that aspect of it, where it's definitely going to help me more again. And then also at on the trading side, I've been trading, God, long time, off and on for 30 years. I was actually a stockbroker and a financial advisor. I got my Series 7 and 6, Series 7 and 61. So I know a little bit about trading. And when I came into the foundations course and took that, I was blown away. It was something, and I won't get into the story about how I came in, but it was through Bill and getting introduced to Sensei was just unbelievable. It's just perfect timing. It was definitely perfect timing. We met at a class out in Vegas, and it just fell right in. And I thought I knew something, but when you let go of what you don't know, you don't know, that's when you learn. And I've learned so much as far as just consistency with trading and consistency with myself, because I never ever thought about writing down my trades or keeping a logbook. I hated keeping a logbook when I was a truck driver. I hated doing it as an engineer. So why the hell would I do it as trading? As trading. I'm sorry, trading. But if you don't examine where you were, how are you going to know where you're going? And that was another key point in taking this creativity class. Is it forced me, and the foundations class, it forced me to examine myself daily. And one of the things about trading, which I'm getting back into, because it's again for me, I'm starting from scratch. I feel anyway, is it's forcing me to focus and allow me to actually come out of my world and actually come into the world of trading where I'm not being judged. The market doesn't judge me one way or the other. Doesn't care I'm sick, doesn't care if I'm well, it doesn't care. But I can focus on the numbers because I have a plan. And that plan is, a plan, prepare, ready, execute, and assess, and take the shot. That I learned through the foundations course and through the creativity. So, that direction there is second to none. That's priceless in itself. So, that's where I'm at as far as, retaking the course, and very looking forward to working with everyone. And hopefully my accountability partner will stay with me again because I don't want to lose him. So, yeah, and so, as far as that goes, now the exercise, I really had to think this time about the exercise, about, someone great in your family. And, last time I talked about my grandfather, who's a World War II vet, and I really had to think about it. And I says, and my belief is that I believe in reincarnation, and I believe, we've come back, numerous times. So this time I actually looked at my 6-year-old son, and why I say 6-year-old, and since they'll understand, because he also, again, want to talk to me. My 6-year-old decided he wanted to play soccer. I don't want to play soccer. But watching him, because he started last year, and this year we're doing winter soccer, and he's played indoor, and he decided he wanted to be goalie. So he took to it something fierce. I mean, this kid, indoor soccer is not outdoor soccer. Grass is soft. He's diving on the floor to stop this ball. I'm going, dude, he's shocking me. I'm like, holy cow. And he's just making it, and brave. I mean, literally, I'm just, he's just going, he's got his, he's into it, really, really, really into it. So, and he just watching him over and watching how he's engaged in the soccer, where he's actually he's team orientated. He's making sure that his team, and he's just, when he celebrates for everybody, not just himself. And I watched him, and it was just something to watch a 6-year-old get the whole team and the crowd every time. And he's like, yes. And it took me back. Like, wow, this kid is really, 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 really something. And so, this weekend past, they were out of school, so I took them to the Enterprise Museum, which is the Enterprise aircraft carrier. So I took them to the Enterprise Museum. My brother. So I got 6 kids, 2 adults, and we're just running all over the place, having a ball. He's hanging. Now, when I was younger, I was on the CV-67 with my uncle, John F. Kennedy. We did a Tiger cruise, and I was fortunate enough to do 3 Tiger cruises in my life. CV-67, John F. Kennedy with my uncle, the Shenandoah with my brother, and the Kalamazoo with my brother. And so I just, to me, it's something that very few people have to. So I was talking to one of the shipmates and volunteers on the aircraft carrier, and I remember going through the whole thing, and I'm telling my son that this is where to hang the planes in and down. I'm giving the tour. So we're talking. Me and when I finally get up to the upstairs, and one of the volunteers, my son is sitting there hanging on every word we are saying. We're having, and everybody else did, not my 6-year-old. He sat there and he's listening, and he's asking questions, and he's doing. I'm like, wow, this kid's really, really, really involved. So they had a great day. Long story short, we're going home that evening, and we had lunch there, and we get him home, and he's getting sick, right? He's got a bellyache, right? Well, come to find out, him and myself, we're just sitting there, and we're exit stage right to the bathroom, so it's not good. So for 2 days, this kid is back and forth. He's sick. He's just not doing well. He's not doing well. So Sunday is the last game of the season. This Sunday passed. And I'm talking to his mom. I says, what is he going to do? Well, I don't recommend that he goes, this, that, and the other, da, 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 da. And I says, not for nothing. I said, well, ask him. What does he think? And before we never said anything was about the last game because he didn't remember. And he goes out of his mouth. Mom goes, do you want to go to the game? You want to go play? He goes, Mommy, my team needs me. I need to go. Are you okay? He goes, I'll be okay, but my team needs me. I looked at her. I says, did he just say what I thought he said? She goes, yep, he said that. So we packed him up, went to the game. He didn't start out as Goldie, so he was a little cold. But when he got into the net, and I just gave him some words of encouragement, and he let the first ball go by, and he wasn't ready because he was cold. He was already playing. He was playing out in the field. And, I think he was more disappointed that because I told him he was good, he can do it. I think he was more disappointed that he let that first ball go. And everybody, I mean, even the other teammates were like, Alex, calm down. It's good. It's your first ball. Calm down. And it took him a minute, and I came on, gave him some more. I said, dude, you just got here. Just relax. Breathe. You got it. Warm up. Do you warm up? So, we gave him some words of encouragement. And once he shook it off, he came back and he made some awesome stops. And he was back into the game. And I'm sitting there going, wow, this kid. And their parents are going, well, you should be a good coach. I don't need to be a coach. He needs to be. He's a good kid. This kid just jumped right in. He shook it off and he jumped right in it. And to the point where he got invited for goalie camp for the summer because the coaches saw him. They just saw something. And I'm saying, that was something great where I'm recognizing that now in his young age or his older age, because if he's been here before, he just knows. So I'm recognizing that this kid was able to not only shake things off, but he taught me some things. He's like, look, yeah, I know I'm not feeling well, but my team needs me. So yeah, guys, there are days when I'm not feeling well, but I know my team needs me. And that's going to be my motto for a long time. My team needs me because you're my team. So I'm looking forward to working with everybody. I hope.
Dan.
So for this lesson, for this night, I decided I would just kind of continue where I left off in the course, which was around the myths of creativity. I hadn't done that part of it yet. So I just continued on to that and started looking at them. And well, I'll just kind of browse through them a little bit. The first one is that creativity comes from genius, but the text goes on to say, nope, it's a scientific process built into the structure of the animal neuron, rooted in the same physical mechanism that drives evolution by natural selection. And then the second myth is that some original ideas are obviously better than others. That's not true. We get attached to different ideas, but then sometimes we don't really know which ones are really going to be the successful ones. And it's probably important to apply empirical testing to every idea before you decide that, this is the next big thing for you. Maybe that kind of relates to my work in progress with trading. At the moment, I had a couple difficult weeks. I thought I had some good ideas, and maybe they were, but the numbers didn't bear them out. And maybe I was biased that they would work. Maybe I jumped into some things too soon. I think at this point, the ideas are pretty good. I talked about them. I don't know how many of you were here. I talked about them a few weeks ago, but it was basically about doing a 30-minute swing trading challenge and having a process where I'd get an alert every 30 minutes, and that I'd have alerts. So I would just go to the screen and see if there was a trade, and if there was, I'd take it. So I got pretty okay at the process, but I still wasn't getting, a high expectancy out of it. And I decided my current thinking is that what I need to do is to spend more time actually going and reading the glossary and looking at the patterns and figuring out what my criteria are for considering something a good pattern. I think that's a good idea, although perhaps not an original one. And as accountability partners, hopefully in a week or two, you'll ask me how that's going, and you'll tell me not to spend the rest of my life just looking at patterns and reading the glossary, that I got to get back in and trade again some more. And not that I'm not trading. I did put on a couple trades yesterday, and they actually went okay. They were the ones that I framed Saturday, actually, in Shell. Let's see, the rest of the myths. Creative people are flighty and or emotional. Do I sound that way? I don't know. It's important to be disciplined about your creativity. Emotion can boost it, but also scatter it or dam it up. Dam it up was my original contribution to this. It wasn't in the text. Creative people are born that way. It says, nope, you can do what Caesar, Shakespeare, and the world's other greatest innovators have done. Elevate yourself from uninspired early works to creations that change the world, or at least generate positive trading expectancy. Creativity comes from chilling out. I know there's some folks among the VTI super traders that really like to rely on their intuition, in a sense, or they want to get into a flow state when they trade, and to get into some kind of flow state, you do have to relax and chill out. So there is an element of chilling out in creativity to get yourself into the flow state, but it's probably a myth that that's all you need to do. You still have to work at it. So it's kind of a mix of inspiration and hard work. Creativity is harmonious. And I would say that one, yes and no. It definitely thrives on collaboration. As a research analyst in my cybersecurity consulting career that I've had for a long time, and still do a little bit of work in there, it's always important when you're writing research papers and things to have an audience in mind and reviewers that you communicate with, because the creative juices really get turned on by talking to people. I know a couple folks have said that on this very same call, and that's why we need accountability partners. And but I think the text of the Myths of Creativity was emphasizing that there's an element of struggle to it, that there's a competition involved. Certainly, when it comes to, different military organizations trying to create the ways to win the next war, that's competition. It carries an edge. Creativity is going rogue. That's myth number 7. And and it talks about creativity and compliance and how sometimes I think sometimes to create something new, you have to go rogue. Sometimes you won't be allowed to be creative unless you sort of seize the initiative, and say, no, I'm trying this, I'm doing this, whatever you say. But in the end, it's also important to be creative within the system. So there is such a thing as the creative bureaucrat or politician that's able to align his or her creations with the art of the possible. Myth 8, creativity is totally original. So I've been reading a book called From Strength to Strength, Finding Success, Happiness, and Deep Purpose in the Second Half of Life. The author, Arthur Brooks, describes the young as having fluid intelligence and older folks as having crystallized intelligence. Hopefully that doesn't mean fossilized intelligence. I think maybe what he meant by crystallized intelligence, and he was citing someone else's research, and I kind of photo read that book, so I didn't dig too deep. But I think what it meant was that you've connected a lot of dots, you've put a lot of pieces together, and I really like that. I've always liked that idea of integrative thinking, and I think we need both types of intelligence in the world. Kind of fluid, out of the box intelligence, and crystallized or integrative intelligence. Creativity comes from within. Myth 9. I think it doesn't just come from within. It's a gift that comes. It's grown by turning outwards, by having objectives. You want to show your work, and that kind of goes back to the collaboration and the accountability partners that you need. And finally, creativity is optional. It's not. It's the reason our species exists. And the book text goes on to talking about AI and other things. I won't get into that on this call. I'm trying to learn a lot more about AI, but that's another discussion. I certainly think creativity is not optional for traders, though. We can take a system that somebody else wrote, but again, to actually make it work, to actually make it fit us, we have to be creative in how we do that. Experimental and creative until we find the right approach.
William.
So I've been through the creativity 202 once before, so I am also a hybrid, like a couple people here, but I am absolutely charged and excited about doing it, because it has been, for me taking it the last time, not only coming up with, and of course this is all working with Ken. I don't mean to diminish that, but I mean, a lot of the he's so creative in so many other places, and then coming up with being creative enough to explain, what the sniper meant to me, and creating the sniper system with him, saying, hey, but this is what I see, and how do I creatively show people what I see in my head. And the next challenge there is accepting the criticism that I had reached a limit to what we could expect of newer traders, or this is a different way of thinking. And kind of pulling me back a little bit and saying, hey, hang on a second. When I had gone off on this, you know, mission of, but I just want them to see what this is, this, you know, the 2-hour battle drill and the way that I interpret it. He goes, you know, and our book partners were both like, dude, you're on a different, this, you have internalized what it is that you're trying to teach, and until you have enough experience in how to even just break that down even more, it may be unteachable. Not you guys, I am not a braggart at all, and I had to become creative with myself, not to say, you know, but no, if they would just see this, you know, I had to creatively convince myself that, hey, you know, here's my peers and my teacher saying, hey, there is a limit to what you can't force people to. It is impossible to get them to think the way you do. All you can do is do your best to break down what it is you're thinking and feeling in a way that they might catch the spark of the idea and use their creativity to reflect it in their trading. You know, so that's a hard thing to swallow, because you know, if you guys could just see what I see in my head, well, the answer sometimes, and it came back to the original creative thinker in our family, my father. He said, I know that he said this to Ken once because I heard it, and you know, I was really young, so I didn't really understand what he was saying. He goes, sometimes, because I don't know if, and this again is not a brag, but we're both kind of smart guys, okay? And I came home from school after they separated me from the rest of my class because of my vocabulary and my advanced mathematics ability. They said, "Oh, well, you're a special kid. We're going to put you over here in this room and let you do this stuff by yourself because you're scaring the other children." And I was distraught. I was like, "Hey, but I want to, you know, I want to share this." And my dad says, "You know, sometimes, son, you're going to understand things that other people just cannot." And that has stuck with me throughout life. So now, the creative part, the reason I'm really, really excited about this second refinement of the original course for me is that I hope I can translate the stuff that I see in my head and get it down into a teachable form, because I think it'll help a lot of people. When the greatest moment for me when we're teaching and when I'm talking, the other night in the after, well, Eddie was there, and I don't know, I think Pascal was there. I'm not sure. But it was going to be like 10 minutes. I was just going to go over something with Eddie for about 10 minutes. A new thing that I had come up with for a little bit longer term trading. And just, I was like, Eddie, once you see this pattern, it's just like magic that you cannot, it's like seeing the Mona Lisa up close for the first time. And you go, you can't unsee that. This is, this is a truth. Oh, okay, there it is. And now I just have to let my brain look at it long enough, and now I will accept the truth and just trade the truth, if you will. But for the next week, it was, dude, can you go back over what that is that you were talking? Because it was just it was just, you know, I forget the term for it, but a flowing of ideas just coming right from the cortex of the brain, just And so that's I'm trying to follow the fight or flight syndrome and the natural impulses. I have to try to learn how to not constrain and not contain those natural expressions of what I'm seeing, because as a I'm a rare kind of trader, which is an empathic visual trader. Not everybody, there are very few of us. Trader X is an empathic visual trader, so he and I click very well. But that's only good for about 2 or 3% of the people out there. So I have to figure out how to relate this to all the numbers guys and how they're going to see it. Or how they can take advantage of what it is that I see in my head. There are the other thing that I love about this course is, like I started to allude to it a little bit, is all the new breakthroughs that I've been able to come up with just because I have this creativity engine now inside of me. The stuff just bubbles up a lot more naturally. Now I have to double down on how to creatively capture some of those thoughts so I can, follow my, never met him, but one of my heroes, Marcus Aurelius, who said, if you're not going to use this stuff, why did you bother learning it? So I take that a little bit farther. It's like, well, if you're going to bother to invent this stuff, why aren't you writing it down so other people can use it? So that's my mission. Aho.
Damien.
I know most of you were not in the part of the discussion on Sunday, so I'm going to make a quick summary of what I discussed and add a little bit more to it. One of the things, when I started the course, I did not realize that there was so much potential inside of me. And I've been doing this only for a week. And one of the things that came really to my mind is I have in my family a lot more creative people than I thought. On both sides of the family, my mom's dad, my grandfather came from a very poor family from a small village in the Vosges Mountains in France. Nobody had any education. He was able to go to high school, then college, and he went all the way into being the president of one of the schools in Nancy, France. He was a zoologist. He created a new field, studying insects. Who would have thought that you could make a field out of it? But I remember when I was growing up, after he passed away, unfortunately, when I was 3 years old, that he had hundreds of documents in his office about everything that he had done. And I was fortunate enough when my mother passed away to get some of that information that I'm translating now into a type form because it's very difficult to read. I'll be honest with you, but it is very interesting, and because of that, I'm able to realize that everything that I've learned through the past 6 decades needs to be, reprogrammed. I had a father who basically told me, you go out there, you work for a company, for the same company for 40 years, then you retire, you enjoy retirement, and you do nothing else. But it turns out that I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur. And when I was able to retire at the age of 46 due to sickness, I for several decades, well, not for several decades, for about a decade, not knowing what to do. I ended up drinking my days to death, which got me in trouble, big trouble. And the police officer who did what he did the best thing for me. I ended up going into rehab. I've been clean for over a decade, and I am so happy that I did what I did. And I am now, reprogramming my life to become a better human being. And that is one of the biggest reasons why I'm taking this course, because I'm realizing that to trade, you have to become a better human being. You have to be able to have your mind in focus and without having all the baggage that you have, and get rid of the beliefs that are not true. And I am so excited to be part of this group. I know Bill, I know Ed, I've talked to Ken through emails several times over the last 6 months, or no, almost 9 months now. And you guys have taught me so much. And I'm able to open up and to share things that I haven't shared with anybody else, because it helps me and it can help everybody else. And that is the greatest thing that I'm going to get out of this. And I am really looking forward to this journey. And I'm not looking at this as a 30-week course. I'm going to be looking at this as a lifetime course, because you can always learn. And learning is the key of success, in my opinion. I hope.
Yeah, Pascal, if you were wondering if I was staring right at you, that would be yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Thank you. So Clara Giroux Plante passed away at the Sturgeon Fall Hospital on Wednesday, August 15th, 2012, at the age of 85. Raising a family of 11 children, she was a dedicated mother and also a talented artist at heart. She found ways to express her creativity by drawing, playing piano, sewing gowns and wedding dresses. And she was also an author and wrote books and song lyrics. One of her songs, Seasons of Love, was professionally recorded and aired on the radio. Her memory remains engraved in the memory of her children, 20 grandchildren, 22 great-grandchildren, and 1 great great grandson. Second exercise, at the age of 13, I was given the opportunity to skip my grade 8 after acing the provincial exams. This was the second time that I was given the opportunity to skip a grade. The first time was in my first grade at the age of 6. And my parents decided that it was best for me to stay in my cohort. But this time at 13, in grade 8, they told me that they were leaving the decision to me. So I decided to leave my friends behind and start high school in February. Then fast forward to high school, and I was ready to graduate at the age of 17. Not wanting to be amongst the youngest in my class at university, I decided to join AFS, American Field Services, and did an exchange program in Portugal, where I became fluent in Portuguese. I traveled, I failed challenges, felt completely alone on Christmas Day, and I learned a whole lot about myself. As for the 3 things, my young self would find ways to get unstuck. Would start trading and find ways not to get down on himself regardless of the outcome. Look for the possibility, look for the progress, but more importantly, just start. From the fight or flight syndrome, I used to be a fighter. I used to not back down, always ready to fight. But I feel I've gotten beaten up pretty hard over the last few years. Feeling that the world is not a fair place, losing confidence in myself and in others. I have a lot of challenges trusting. How do these feelings manifest? It's a feeling of shaking inside, feeling trapped, expecting the worst, feeling paralyzed. So I end up not doing anything, and now after I feel bad for not doing anything and missing out. What's the first signal the urge is about to come on me? It's a feeling, it's a thought, and sometimes I don't exactly know where it's coming from, but all of a sudden it's there. And it will get more and more intense. How long do they last? A lot of time it could be the entire day until I go to bed. Usually when I wake up in the morning, it's better. But this week, it's basically, it started on Sunday and hasn't gone away. I've tried clapping my hands, and I'm not at a week yet. A lot of this reminds me of, I'm a big fan of Tony Robbins, and I did a lot of programs, so similar to the idea of the power moves, similar, I was able to walk on hot coals and all that. So there's a lot more that I need to do. But that's where I'm at. That's where I'm starting. Oh.
All right, I'm gonna hit the tones this time, and while I'm hitting those tones, I want you to be listening inside carefully for the one word that works its way to the top of the stack and becomes your focus word to support your reflections in the week ahead. And then as you go through the lessons the Fletcher exercises, my exercises, listening to the videos, doing your thing, assembling your story, that extra thing, that word right there is something that apparently is going to be important to help you organize your thoughts around the week. That sometimes it renders down to a single word for us to consider, and we don't know why until we've thought about it and found the reason why that word got nominated to our attention. So that's what we're going to do now, and then after I hit the tones, and then I'll call on you in the order I see you, starting with Luke, and you just give us your word. I recommend you write it down on a page in your journal for the week ahead, and somehow incorporate that into your note making and reflectioning for next week. So here we go. Listening carefully. Luke,
Shoot.
say again.
Shoot.
Shoot. Ed,
Calm.
Pascal,
Gratitude.
Dan,
Prioritize.
Jeff,
Accept.
Damien,
Truth.
William,
Focus.
mine was practice. Okay, I'll go ahead and get this published and processed. Now, ordinarily we'd just monkey around with coffee talk in the foyer. There might be some things to follow up with, or whatever we want to just talk about. We got the nightly podcast coming up, and our stories were. I'm not going to say long. Our stories were appropriate, but they were lengthy in time relative to probably some battle rhythm we'll be in the future. So I'm gonna, since I know some of you guys are gonna want to stick around for that, I'm gonna go ahead and just do a quick checkout and give you a chance to take a 5-minute break, and if you're coming back for the nightly, and so everything good here, you guys. I was expecting great things, and of course, it's better than that. So this is going to be a good ride, and I'm really looking forward to the journey. If I'm being frank and honest, it was, I was looking forward to this with a sense of dread, like, oh man, here we go again, just getting in the weight room and pumping iron. But then it turns out that's what your body craves anyhow. So, hey, I would just say, my little moment of zen was about being perfect versus just trading. Evolution and DNA has fully experimented with the human brain, and we're not the first generation that was ever trading. And if it turned out that being perfect was a precondition for success in trading, then all the good traders would be perfect. And exactly none of them are. Not a single trader that you will ever read about ever said, turned out that I just studied it until I fully understood everything, and then I was just perfect and never made errors. And I don't understand why everybody else is having such a hard time with this. Exactly 0 people ever say that. So we've got to learn to accept the evidence that the world is just laying out there, saying, well, just kind of look around. If being perfect was that important, then we wouldn't be the monkeys that we are. And the good news is that the other traders out there have the same DNA that we do, and and that's something for us to keep in the bank for us. So I'm going to go ahead and check out, and I'm just going to bring this session to a close, and just want to give gratitude to you guys for putting it out there and being willing to take on the journey, and really looking forward to this. I would encourage you to view the other videos of the other sessions from the other cohort, the Sunday morning guys and the guys that have gone on before. There's just a plentitude of goodies in there, and since you got lifetime access, you should access to all this. You should not ever be in a hurry, except a useful hurry to get on with it, sort of, and get things done. So I'm going to call the session to a close then, and I will see you on the high ground, and we'll start the nightly podcast. Let's see, I got it 30, probably at 8:45 Central, so another 8 minutes, and we'll be ready to go with that. So I'll see you then.